Happy holidays from the Hive. Welcome, bees. The last show we had the amazing Dennis Sigalos. Do you know Dennis Sigalos, Siggy? He was in the Hive, and it was a great show. You might want to watch that if you missed that. And today we have another great guest. He's a very well known, popular entertainer, actor, voiceover artist, voice of Accra Long Beach Grand Prix. He's actually the voice of the Costa Mesa and Industry Hill Speedway. And he was doing the Long Beach Grand Prix for pushing 40 years from now. The voice of the Costa Mesa, and he's a famous celebrity. We'd like to introduce to you the legendary, the one, the only, Terry Ike Clanton. Terry,
How you
welcome.
doing, Brian? How you doing, Brian?
Hey, you're doing great. Tell,
That
tell us
was
about tell us
that was
about
quite the
your.
that was quite the introduction. You said that I've been at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach for almost 40 years. I started when I was 9.
See, well, I thought you're 27 right now, so
That's right.
you're 27. Remember. uh, so tell us about your Christmas at Tombstone, Arizona. You had a motorcycle ride. What happened and who was there? You had a lot of celebrities at that event.
Well, it was during the lockdown, and I put together. Actually, it was on Facebook, just my personal Facebook page, and I put it out there. And most all my motorcycle friends have always said, when I'm around the motorcycle industry, they always say, "Oh, I want to go to Tombstone. I want to go to Tombstone," but they never show up in Tombstone. A few of them have. Jim the Animal Fishback came down there. Danny Berserko Becker, before he passed, he came down and really enjoyed it. But anyway, I had the idea. I thought, why don't I put together a motorcycle ride with street legal dirt bikes, and we'll tour and we'll do like 100 miles out and around, and I'll take them to 3 different ghost towns and all kinds of stuff, and we'll just have this really great time in Tombstone, and I'll do a walking tour of the town for everyone, and they'll see the gunfight at the OK Corral, and they'll see the haunted hotel, and they'll see the underground mine tour and the Birdcage Theater, and all of this on Friday. And then Saturday we'll do a 109-mile motorcycle ride. And anyway, as it turned out, we had 70 people show up. We had 50 riders, including King Kenny Roberts, the first American world road racing champion. He came out and joined us. And then 3-time world champion, MotoGP world champion Eddie Lawson, and multi-time Grand National champion and Superbike champion Bubba Schobert. And we had Eddie Munster, Butch Patrick ride with us. And Bruce McDougall, who used to be Marty Smith's teammate at Factory Honda, and he was also a Factory Yamaha rider. And Todd Peterson from Team Swollen. We had a whole slew of riders, and it was great. In fact, today on my personal Facebook page, I posted about one of the highlights of the whole weekend too, was sitting around the campfire at night telling campfire stories. So you had to wear real tall boots. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
You had King Kenny Roberts and his Bumblebee Yamaha. He had the
Yeah.
Bumblebee colored Yamaha, right?
Yes, and you know what? I had the pleasure to go out with Jerry Kennedy, who was the longtime starter of the AMA dirt track races. Many of you probably know Jerry Kennedy in the motorcycle
Yeah.
industry. And it was just they got there a couple days early. So on Thursday, it was just King Kenny Roberts, Bubba Schobert, and Jerry Kennedy and I. And I took them out to my mine. I have a silver mine in Tombstone, it's 16-acre patented mining claim. And so we rode to the Shefflin Monument, and we rode to my mine, and we got off and walked around, and they were picking up some of the tailings for their grandkids and things. And in fact, it was a funny thing when we went over to Kenny Roberts. Bubba Schobert and I rode over to Kenny Roberts' motorhome before we took off on that Thursday, and Kenny he goes, "I even checked the air pressure in the tires." He goes, "That's a first." That's the first. I thought that was a great line. So yeah, we had a good time. It was just I showed them all Old Overholt rye whiskey, and they all seemed to like it and brought bottles home themselves. So that,
Awesome.
I should extend that a little bit. Uh, the Old Overholt rye whiskey is what they drank in the Old West, and it's been made since 1810, and it's straight
Wow.
rye whiskey. And it sounds horrible, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound terrible? But
I
it's
would want
not.
to drink
It's
it.
no.
No.
It's delicious. It's really super good. And if you can't get it really in any bar around, but in Tombstone, every bar has it. Okay, it is a Beam product, so you could go to your liquor store and ask them for to get you some Old Overholt. That's old and then Overholt, Hold. I mean T. Old Overholt. Anyway, and George Washington drank it. Abraham Lincoln drank it. Ike Clanton, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday. That's what they drank was Old Overholt. So when people come to Tombstone, I always introduce them to Old Overholt. So yeah, it's good.
Now, wait a minute. All those guys that you just talked about, they're all dead. So is this whiskey going to kill you?
Oh no, no, no. Actually, a couple sips a day will keep your germs nice and happy, so you're never sick.
Very good. Very good. I'll have to start. I don't drink alcohol, so I'm going to have to start drinking whiskey now. Just joking.
Hey,
Oh,
there is a theory about that though. In fact, that's an old racing story too. Uh, you remember Tony Briggs, right? Tony Briggs, back
yeah.
in well,
Yeah.
Tony Briggs. Remember
I raced them.
him and Briggo, the four-time world champion Barry Briggs. They used to do diamond mining in Africa,
Oh, wow.
and and Tony was down in Africa, and he had a bad stomach down in Africa, and he went to a doctor, and the doctor said, well, I could give you some medicine, but he says, probably to drink some vodka, it'll kill the bug, drink some vodka. So he was coming back to the U.S. So anyway, he thought, oh man, I'm feeling sick, I'm not doing no vodka, that's just, that doctor's crazy down there. So he came back to the U.S. and he went to his regular family doctor, and the doctor basically told him the same thing. He said, I can give you antibiotics, or I can give you something, to take, some medicine to take. But he goes, what you should
Just
do is
drink.
stop by the liquor store and do a shot of vodka. It'll kill the bug in your stomach. So anyway, little truth to
Oh,
that.
my Lord. That's good.
Don't
Oh,
call me
very good.
Hey, don't call me Dr. Clanton. No, don't call me Dr. Clanton.
Anytime I'm sick, Terry, I'm just going to call you up and ask you what I should drink.
Sure, sure.
Okay, doctor?
Yeah.
Uh, hey, I was going to ask you, you rode motocross like in the mid 70s. You were like a 125cc pro motocross rider. And I think you rode in the Los Angeles Coliseum because I was there as a spectator and I didn't race. But I saw you. So tell us about your 125 pro motocross days.
Well, really, I'll start back in the 100 days. Basically, when the Elsinores came out in 1973, I was about 5 feet tall and weighed about 90 pounds, and I got me a 125 Elsinore. Actually, I'll even back up further than that. I lived near Whittier Honda, so I was always there on my Stingray bicycle, racing around the parking lot and everything. And I think they just got tired of me, so they hired me as the lot boy. And I used to pick up trash after school. I'd go down there and sweep the parking lots, and they'd pay me a few bucks and stuff like that. And I was always at the Honda shop because I just wanted to. All I wanted to do was race motorcycles. So when the 125 Elsinores came out in '73, it was a little bit much for me because I really wasn't tall enough to even hardly ride it. And then Rocky from Whittier Honda. Now this was a first. I don't know if you remember these, but because there was a few after it. But Rocky went to L.A. Sleeve down in L.A. and they made a sleeve for the 125 cylinder, and and then we used a Suzuki 100 piston. And so I was the first one to have a 100 Elsinore. Okay.
Mm.
And then Rocky ported it, and we took it to Irwindale. I was racing Irwindale on Friday nights, and I ran the 100 junior class, and I would race a couple guys on stock 125s down the drag strip, my 100 was faster than a stock 125. So it didn't, it kind of wasn't fair. But it was okay because I won. But no, it was fair. But even if you were a better rider than me when I had that 100, I could beat you because the bike was so much faster. In fact, I won a whole bunch of weeks in a row, and then I started racing the 100 Pro class down at OCIR against Jeff Ward and Mike Johnson and Bruce McDougall and I can't a lot of them. Anyway, so somebody went to Stu Peters and Calvin Franks at Irwindale and said, "Hey, Clanton's riding 100 Pro down at OCIR." So I showed up the next Friday night on my 100, with my 100, and Calvin Franks says from CMC says, "Clanton, you're going to ride. You can't ride in the 100 class anymore. You're going to have to ride 125 Pro." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm in 100 Junior." And he goes, "Yeah, but somebody said you're riding the Pro class down at OCIR, so now you're going to have to ride 125 Pro." So my first night in 125 Pro at Irwindale, I lined up with Gary Denton, David Taylor, Mark Tyre, Bruce McDougall, Tim Lundy, Dave Pessy. I mean, we're talking, it was a stacked field, and they were on fast 125s, and I was on my 100 because that's all I had at that stage. So anyway, to make a long story short, yeah, we had a good run with the old on the 125, and then that really was one of the highlights. And I think that I speak for a lot of in my era. If you were one of the people that qualified to race in 1975 in the Super Bowl of motocross in the LA Coliseum, it was spectacular. I mean, here it was really one of the highlights of my whole racing career. And I'll tell you how it worked out too. Is you had to qualify, and it was high school motocross, okay, and how it worked out is you had to qualify to be in it, and then we had qualifiers or the heat races during the day before the 85,000 people got there. We had the heat races, but the kicker to it was the 125 Pro race. If you qualified and made the main event was going to be in between the 250 and the 500. So we got to race in the main event in front of 85,000 people. And it was there. Oh man, it was unbelievable, man. I didn't do so well because, in fact, I just found out from Gary Denton about a year ago. He told me really what happened because I go, man, I got a good start. I got to the first corner, and I think I was third going into the first corner, and they went straight. It was muddy, and we all went straight. I went into the hay bales, and my bike quit, and I had to start it up, and I was 22nd on the first lap, and I worked my way to 8th in the main. But I thought that was pretty good. So I made a little bit of a comeback, but I never knew what happened when we went. And Denton told me, he said that it was Danny Chandler. Remember Magoo?
Yeah.
He just missed the corner completely and went straight and took us all out because Denton went down too. I didn't know he went down with me, but he was one of the other. About 6 of them or 8 of us went down in the first corner.
So you were turning the corner and everybody just plowing you over and going into
Magoo just went straight and took us out like bowling balls, bowling pins.
He's a good rider. He shouldn't do that.
Well, I think he didn't know where the corner was. I think he probably just missed the corner totally. But anyway, and then in '79, I had a chance to race in the Houston Astrodome Supercross, and that was pretty cool too. Yeah.
Wow.
So Did you at the beginning of the stadium stuff? What's that?
I was going to say, did you like that jump in the Coliseum when you come through the arches and you come out into the crowd and you go in the back? Did you like it? Because that's cool.
Yeah, one of my friends, Steve Schilling, he hit the handlebars and busted his chin. Or I think it was his chin or something open. Yeah, but that whole track. The one that was the biggest for us was the one they called Insanity Ridge. I remember the name of it. Wow, that's a long time ago. And it was the straightaway, and they just had a drop off. It was a 7-foot drop off. Well, 7-foot drop off was a pretty big jump we had this much travel in the rear wheel between the fender and the rear wheel. We only had like 4 inches of travel. And In the main event, when I brought it in after the main event, I had broken spokes from hitting so hard, broken spokes, and my foot pegs were the gussets on the top of the welds on the frame, and my foot pegs were bent like this. A couple more jumps, and it would have broke the foot pegs off the frame. That's how hard we were hitting. So,
Well,
yeah,
you had a
good old days.
beautiful bike. That Honda is beautiful.
Yeah, that was the one when I had the chrome. I had Rocky from Whittier Honda. Myself and Bill Glore had chrome tanks, and yeah, we had they were chrome tanks. I loved that bike. That bike was so trick, and I have a story about that too, about that motorcycle. Um, somebody started breaking into the cage at Whittier Honda. They had a cage out in back where they put the crates when they'd come in with the new bikes before they'd be built, and somebody was going in and cutting the fence and taking the bikes. So Rocky says, "Hey, I want you boys to lay. We're going to lay for them. We're gonna lay for them. We're gonna stay in the building and we're gonna catch these suckers, man. We're gonna catch them, you know." And so anyway, so we did, and we're in there and everything. It's and Rocky's sitting in there. He goes, "You know what? No one's gonna break in there. There's not that many bikes in there." He goes, let's put your bike out there, Terry. That chrome tank and everything. Let's put your bike out in the cage, and then they'll break in for that for sure, you know." So he puts my bike out there in the cage, and then we're in the showroom, and we're in there, and now it starts pouring rain. We're sitting in the chairs, for the salesman's chairs and all that stuff. And I don't know, it was probably 3:00 in the morning or something like that. And it's pouring rain, and we're all tired. And Rocky goes, "The thief's not going to come tonight. Let's just all go home. I'm tired, and we're all tired and everything." So we all went home. Came back the next morning. My bike was gone.
Yeah. Oh no!
That was
no!
the one I rode in the Coliseum. It had like Morzorci gas shocks on it, and it had air forks, and I don't know, it had all kinds of cool stuff, and it was ported. Really, one of Rocky's best port jobs. That bike was fast. Anyway, so
did he give you another
storytelling
or not? Did you get another bike?
Yeah, they got me a new. We started in on a new bike, and then actually I think we went from chrome tanks to those. We ran what was it? It was School Bus Yellow, and Dennis Jones, the famous. I just talked to him the other day too, the pinstriper, because Tim Barty is also a striper friend of mine, and but Dennis Jones is like legendary. He's like he's old school, and he painted Whittier Honda on the tanks, with his fancy lettering. Yeah, so
beautiful.
Yep, the old motocross days.
That's cool. When I was a kid, the 125 Honda, it was the motocross bike. What do they call it? What is the name of that bike? The 125, the one you're telling me? They have a name for that one?
Elsinore.
The Elsinore. Yeah. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It was like the Elsinore. I forgot the name of that bike. And it was beautiful. I just my mouth was watering. I'd see the beautiful red Elsinore 125. I was a little kid too, and I was like, oh, it's beautiful. It's the first motocross bike.
The first ones were silver with the green on the top of the tank. The red ones came out later.
And then they went to red. The red ones came out next.
I still have the
I like those bikes.
I still have the 79 that I rode in the Astrodome. In fact, I think it still has the Astrodome dirt on it. Seriously, it does.
I believe it. I believe you don't clean your bikes. I believe it.
Well, no, I just I had to park it after that. I got hurt, so.
Yeah. So you went from motocross to Speedway because the transition from motocross to Speedway is really radical because that's such a different sport as Speedway, sliding and no brakes, and the style of riding a Speedway bike. Because I'm not a motocross rider, but I can ride a Speedway bike. And then you went from motocross to Speedway. So how in the world did that happen? And how did you get started in Speedway from motocross?
Well, I will tell you, if you're a kid and you think you're going to want to ride Speedway, don't ride motocross because it just gives you all the bad habits.
Oh,
It's like everything is the opposite of what you did
I,
on a motocross bike. And I think that, the motocross riders like Warren Reed and Rex Staten and Steve Bauer. And I mean, there's been a lot of them that have raced Speedway after motocross. And you can always kind of tell the motocross riders out there, but it's just hard to break those. Other than the starts, I've always noticed that the guys that ride motocross know how to gate. Okay, on Speedway bikes. I mean, everybody that rode motocross seems to know how to gate. David Taylor, another one. He was great at starts on like the 125 Pro class, and he was great at starts on Speedway bikes. So but other than that, it's just so different. I mean, you turn right to go left, and no brakes, and it's a whole different. You have to learn all over again. And I will say this too. I was a better motocrosser than I ever was a speedway rider, and uh, because I was really at the end of my motorcycle racing career basically when I started in speedway. I just wanted to give it a go, but how that all came about was first off, I got hurt after the Astrodome. I got hurt. Actually, Honda sent a barrel to Rocky, and they put it on my bike, and I went up in the Whittier Hills, and I was up in the Whittier dump, and I was riding. I wasn't even practicing. All I had was Levi's on and a t-shirt and a helmet and boots. And anyway, I was just riding on one of the roads up in the hills right up by the Whittier dump, and I hit a rock and went off a cliff, and the bike cartwheeled, went end over end, but I went off this cliff down in the bushes, and I was up there by myself, and I kind of like woke up and went, wow, there was all this dirt and stuff in my goggles, and the foot peg must have hit me because I felt down my leg, and my pants were full of blood, and I just knew I had to get out of there because I was literally by myself up in the Whittier Hills in the dump area, and off a cliff. So I crawled back to my motorcycle. I remember the bars were bent down like this, and the throttle was off. So I slid the throttle back on, and I started it up, and it was going wide open. I just put the choke on and put it in first gear and started out of there. And as I started going down, I knew I was hurt with head injuries or something, like a concussion or something, because everything started getting brighter and brighter and getting wider and wider. I made it around the first gate, and then thank God there was nobody coming on Penn Street by Penn Park, because I went right out of the dump. I went straight across, and I hit the curb and crashed again. A guy was waxing his car right there. Called the medics or whatever. But after that, they told me, "Hey, you've had way too many concussions." Because I had like 17 concussions. I know you hear football players, the NFL, talking about concussions. I had like 17 concussions, and the doctor said, "Hey, you got to lay off the motorcycle racing, man. You had way too many concussions." So I parked it after that, and that was about 1980. That was just after late 79 or whatever. I guess that was the Astrodome. So it was just after that, and then in 81. I started. I had to do something competitive, so I started shooting fast draw. World Fast Draw Association, fast draw guns, 45s, and kind of like my family heritage. Anyway, yeah, fast draw. Anyway, and I had a good time with that, and I shot for about a year, and then I just I had an itching to get back into riding again and everything, so I started practicing again. I was out at Indian Dunes. I hadn't raced yet, but I went out to Indian Dunes and I was practicing and riding. And I just cruised over to the Speedway practice track there, and there was Dangerous Dub Farrell, and you know how friendly Dangerous Dub is, And he's like, "Yeah, I live in Whittier."
yeah.
I'm like, "I live in Whittier," And he's like, "Oh man, come by my house," and all that stuff. Anyway, while we were at Indian Dunes, he goes, "Try my bike. Try this one. Go get on it. Come on, try it." And he took me out to, if you remember Indian Dunes, they had the real tacky small track. that would be really hard to ride because it was wet usually. Then they had the big track that was real slick. Well, anyway, he took me over to the slick track, and I could ride the Speedway bike pretty well the first day and had it sideways and everything. And I was digging it. I thought this was the coolest thing ever. So I started going over to Dub's garage and helping Dub and going to the races with Dub. And the next week I got my Speedway bike from Bill Cody. And then I pitted next to Dub every week because I had no idea how to adjust the clutch or any of that stuff. So I worked on my bike I had no idea what I was doing. So I would go over to Dub's house and we'd wash them, and he'd show me how to clean the clutch and all that stuff and put it back together and all that stuff. And then finally I got a pit man, and he took it to his house, and then I just really just rode it, the rest of the time and stuff. But anyway, and then so I enjoyed Speedway.
Well, Dub was my teacher.
Huh?
Dub was my first Speedway instructor, so he's a good teacher. Did he teach you, or did he just like let you ride?
Yeah, but I talked to him earlier tonight, and he never had to take my seat off, Brian.
Because I had a fat ass, and I like sitting on the seat.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When I was on,
yeah, I know.
Talking to him today, he said Brian came to my school out at Maley's, and he said he kept sitting on the seat in the corners, and I told him, you got to stand up, Brian, you got to stand up. So he said I went over and took Brian's seat off. You remember that?
He did. He did. Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I had Dub was just number 2 in the United States that year, and he was really famous, writer. And Ken asked me if I wanted Dub for like $300 for the weekend, and I said I'm in. It was like $1,000 today, so it was a lot of money. But I said I need help, and so I'm out there like a D3 rider, riding like crap. And every time I rode, I said, "Oh, Dub Farrell's gonna love me. He's gonna think I'm so good and stuff." And Dub was always like, "Brian, come here. Take your seat off. You ride like crap." And I said, "Okay, Dub." And then I didn't know how to take the seat off. And I said, "Can you take the seat off from me, Dub? Because I don't even know what to do." So he'd take the seat off, and then I would ride a little better. And then Dub would say, "Brian, take that 22-inch tire off and put a 19-inch Carlisle on there." And I said, "I don't know what a 19-inch is, and I don't know how to take a tire off." So Dub's like, "Oh," I was so mad, and he would take it off for me. I didn't know anything. And Dub, and I would, every time I'd come in, I would tell Dub like, "Oh, Dub Farrell's in love with my riding. He thinks I'm such a good D1 rider now." And Dub was like, "Brian, come here, you suck," It was great. So Dub remembered me, right? Dub remembered me.
Yeah, no, he remembers you, and I told him he's watching right now too. He's watching. So
very cool.
Yeah, and I was telling Dub, because Dub was one of the riders. Dub went to the Tombstone Trail ride as well. In fact, he got the best bike. He rode a 1966, 67 maybe, BSA 441 Victor. So that he's got, and he got the best bike award. So yeah.
Is that the one he couldn't start? You did a video. I watched it. It was like 30 minutes long, and Dub was kicking the bike like, and the bike wouldn't start for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, yes. And Dub, his face is all red, and he can't start this. It's like a 30-minute video, and I felt sorry for Dub. He looked like he was gonna have a heart attack.
Nah, he was all right. He was more embarrassed than he was anything else, because it was the thing kicked like, starts up for him like first or second kick pretty much, and I don't know, something was up that day with it, or something with the electrical or something. But anyway, no, he had a good time on that 441 Victor, the Tombstone Trail ride, and he went good on it, and he said it rode like Cadillac, so he's going to ride it again this next year.
Nice. But I'd like to join you. That would be fun.
I'm telling you, I got some surprises for everybody this next year too, and it's more of a like, it was just the get together, especially during this, the Corona lockdown and all that stuff. Everybody's locked in their houses and everything, and people have high anxiety, and people are depressed, and people have lost their jobs, and they're losing their businesses and their houses and just everything. So I just thought it would be great to go down to Tombstone and ride our dirt bikes, you know, our street legal dirt bikes. So we had a great time.
Awesome.
And we're going to do it again next year. So
That's awesome. I'd love to ride that. That would be fun.
Mike
So
Tripes, that
you
was the
got
other one that
into
helped me out. Mike Tripes, you know, Marty Tripes'
who?
brother, Mike Tripes.
Yeah.
He was another one that helped us out. Because at the back, it's very important to ride at the back, you know, sweep. And at the back, I had Kelly Carlisle, who used to be a 250 pro rider, good friend of mine, Bruce McDougall, Mike Tripes, and Todd Peterson. That was my guys running sweep. So they did a great job.
Nice. Nice. Well, getting to Speedway, back to Speedway, like, how did you get into like being an announcer to Speedway? Like you've done a lot of commercials and motorsports things. Like, how did you actually get into all that?
Well, first off, I used to imitate all the. I'll go back to when I was racing motocross. I used to like screw around and imitate all the announcers and stuff like that. And when Flanders was announcing at Irwindale, you know, Whittier Honda would work on my bike, so I would just race, and then they'd park it and they'd work on it, and I'd go up in the announcer's booth. I'd go hang out with Bruce up in the announcer's booth and watch the races. And so that's how I got to know Bruce Flanders. And then I would just imitate the other announcers and everything. And one night I showed up to Orange County, and I don't remember who the announcer was. I have no idea who it was, but I showed up down there, and the promoter comes out to my van and he goes, "Clanton, you're not racing tonight." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm not racing tonight?" He goes, "You're going to be my announcer." And I'm like, "I don't want to be the announcer." And he goes, "No, I know you can do it. You'll do a good job. I just want you to be my announcer." And I go, "Really? I really don't want to do it. I come to race my motorcycle." And he goes, "I'll tell you what, I'll pay you $20 more than if you win the 125 pro class tonight." So I went,
Wow.
"Okay, maybe I'll do it for a week." So I did it, and I literally went up there and just had a ball. I was making fun of everybody, and you know, in fact, Randy Skinner was in that race that night. I remember because I was making fun of Skinner. I remember that, but he wasn't the sandbagger there. I probably had a different name for him. But anyway, that's how I got started. But then the next week I went back to you know, riding and stuff. But and then I started these. This is kind of funny when you hear this. I started doing stomper racing, little toy cars in bars, the Characters Restaurant, La Habra, Whittier on Beach Boulevard, and the little stomper cars. Anyway, I made up this track, and there was a line to get in the place, and the people racing them were Gene Woods and Chris Agajanian, and all the racers would come and race their stomper cars on Tuesday nights. And then Gene Woods comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I need you to be my announcer." And I'm like, "What do you mean, be your announcer?" He goes, "Oh yeah, we're going to do a speedway race, and I'm going to do the Arizona State Championship at the fairgrounds, and you can ride with me in my 7-Up van, and we'll go down there, and you can be my announcer." Anyway, so that's how I got started announcing Speedway. And then just shortly after that, Agajanians hired me, or no, I'm not sure where it was, Ascot or no, I think I worked at Victorville. I worked at Victorville for a number of years, at Victorville and then Paris, and then, I think Ascot was before Paris. Yeah, Ascot. I worked there for like 7 years at Ascot at the South Bay Stadium Speedway, and then I worked at Paris. In fact, Bruce Flanders and I were the ones that opened up Paris Auto Speedway. He was the announcer up in the booth, and I was a pit reporter with Chris Holt on opening night. And Scott Delosio, friend of mine, he announces out there now. You know Scott, because back in the day when you were racing, he was and he was also the photographer back in the day in the Speedway days. But anyway, that's how I got started, and then Bruce really took me under his wing. You know, not long after that, because he needed help at the Grand Prix. It was the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach at that stage, and so I started helping him down there and got involved with the Long Beach Grand Prix Association. And then, in fact, Bruce went on for a few years on to kart. He worked for kart, and he traveled around the country at doing all the IndyCar races. I went on. I did all the San Diego Grand Prix as well. Announced all the San Diego Grand Prix, and then the Long Beach Grand Prix Association started the IndyCar race in St. Petersburg, Florida. So Bruce and I went down and we announced the first 2 years at St. Petersburg. And the rest of our staff did, and then they sell it off, and then that one's still going. We did the same thing at Denver, and then we went into the early 90s and 91, and that brings us all the way up to Ivan Major,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you did announcing. You did announcing in Australia, New Zealand, in like about 1991. They had these really long tracks, like almost a mile long, and they're so hard to see the riders. There's like 15 riders on the 0-yard line, and they go flying, and they fly, and they go like at 200 miles an hour. And then you had to announce that. You had to see like who was the lead. How in the heck did you do that? And you're the only American announcer to announce in like Australia. And these guys probably hated your voice.
No, well, you know what? I got to tell you, when I did, those were Ivan Major's long track invitational speedway events, and it was 19 speedway riders from all over the world, and we traveled around Australia. And Ivan would put the Americans, like we were all in one van. I was in the van, with Bobby Schwartz, Steve Lucero, Chris McGee, Bobby Hedden, and myself. I think that was who was in the van one year. And I thought when I got hired to go over there, I thought that, one race was like in Costa Mesa and the next one would be like in Santa Barbara, for instance. No, it was like the first one was at Costa Mesa and the second one was in New York City. They were like 16-hour drives through the outback with kangaroos hopping across the road, motorways and stuff. But anyway, so the first year I did it, and I remember the second year I told Ivan, I go, I'll do it, but I've seen Australia now. I want to fly to the races, or I want to fly to. I was tired of those drives because there were long drives in between. But it was. I have to tell you, if you've never seen long track speedway, and Ivan, rest in peace, Ivan. You were a great promoter because he really knew how to put on a show. That man was, he really knew how to, he was a showman, and he really did a great job. And he took care of all of us. I mean, like we'd race on Saturday night, and then he'd take care of all of our hotel rooms and our travel and everything in between all these races and everything. And I got to ride in the car with Ivan and Ray, his wife Ray, and got to know him pretty well. And Ivan was a really special guy. And there's, he was 9-time world champion, and he, you could see the way he ran shows as a promotion is how he raced. Everything was meticulous, everything. He wanted everything perfect and everything like that. And that's why he was a good promoter as well. Like Brad Oxley, Brad Oxley is the same way. He wants everything, spot on and everything to be right on time and everything. And anyway, those races down under, I got to, I roomed at one stage. I roomed with Simon Wigg, and I met all those guys like Crossy, Simon Cross, and Gerd Riss, and all those guys were just great people, and great riders, and we just had so much fun. And then actually I got hired in right after that. I think it was 92 to be the first American. Oh, I soloed those events, by the way. I was the PA announcer like I do Speedway here. I soloed those. The one you're talking about is the one when I went to the Surfers Paradise, Australia, and they brought me in to be the lead announcer on the Grand Prix there in Surfers Paradise. Which I announced Speedway for Ivan at Surfers Paradise as well. And it was just they brought me in and I'm the Yank coming in on board with all these other guys that were in different corners, you know, and everything. It's like, God, I don't know, they probably didn't really like me much because, you know, they're bringing in the Yank here, and you know, just I wasn't one of the boys, you know what I mean? I just wasn't one of them, you know. So
And you were
anyway,
taking their job away from them, so they
well,
probably didn't
I
like
don't know what they
you.
thought. No, I was good. We had a good time and everything with it, but yeah, it was just like, you know, it was yeah, they do the announcing a little different. Like they have guys in different corners, you know, and you pitch it like you talk, you're running down the straightaway, and then you go, okay, we're gonna go up to Bob in turn 1, and Bob takes over, and then they go to turn 3 or 4, and we go to Steve in turn 4, you know. So
It's such a
anyway,
long
no, but
track.
it was
You could
good.
do
It was good because it was so different for me, you know. It was awesome.
that.
So had a good
You know,
time down there.
I watched you announce that race, and I was like, the people were like little ants, and then Terry's like, yeah, Simon's in the lead, and so's the lead. I'm like, how the hell did you see those guys? Because they're
Oh,
so
the long
long.
track speedway. Yeah, the long
Yeah, how
track
do you
speedway.
see those? You
The
start
long
off
track
with the
speed.
15 guys on the line, and then you have to know everybody. Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you how I did it. I'll tell you how I did it. I would memorize the leathers and the riding attire. You know, the riding suits and their helmets and leathers, because yeah, they're going so fast, and it's an 800-meter track. It's at night. You can't see the numbers, and I'm at the very top of the grandstands in a booth. No, you had to know who they were, but what you do is you have to memorize the riders. And actually, sometimes in the dark, you have to memorize the riding styles. You know, there you could take a silhouette. Um, you could show me a silhouette of some speedway riders, and you know what I'm talking about when they do T-shirts and stuff like that. You can go, "Oh, that's Kelly Moran. Well, that's Ziggy." You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
know when you see their riding style who they are. Well, same goes with that. You know, you kind of know who ducks down at the back straightaway. I remember Gerd Riss, world long track champion. He would get real low. Simon Wigg was also like that. He'd get way back on the seat, way back, you know, and yeah, so
Mhm.
a lot of fun.
That was cool stuff. So I was gonna bring you back to Costa Mesa, bring you back home to Costa Mesa. And what is your favorite event to host? They have Jack Milne Cup, they have the jumper night, the Harley night, they have all these different nights. Which is the one that you like the most?
You know what? Costa Mesa is magical. I just don't know how to. I can just, you know, Costa Mesa is magical. It's just like of course it's the granddaddy of them all. It's been around forever. Um, it's legendary, you know, and it's just the track is what it is. You know, it's such tight racing because it's so small and everything like that. I don't know. Well, of course, all the big nights, the more people you have in the grandstands, the easier it is for me to announce. I'll tell you that because
Mm.
of the atmosphere. It's a lot and that's it anywhere. You know, the bigger the crowd, the easier it is to announce because it's just magical. It's electrical, the electricity, it's the excitement. You know, um, but and yeah, no, Costa Mesa. What's the well? Of course, the National is my favorite event because it's all in the night. You know, the national championship at Costa Mesa is a one night deal, the way it's always been for over 50 years. You know, it's everybody shows up. Doesn't matter where you are in points at the beginning of the night. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday or last week. It's tonight and it comes down to four guys at the end, and whoever wins that 4 lap race is the national champion and wears number 1 the whole year. To me, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. I just that one night. Uh, that's just the way Speedway's always been at Costa Mesa, and I love it. You know, the national championship has to be my favorite. But of course, those big nights like Harley Night and stuff are fun too. Yeah.
I see you wear your Harley uniform on, your biker attire, and you ride your Harley in there. So I think you have fun with the Harley night.
Oh no, I do actually. I was just with Bruce McDougall and Ron Kilwitz. Ron Kilwitz was the longtime manager at the Orange County Harley Davidson, and you know, when they were sponsoring Costa Mesa Speedway, we would do a ride every beforehand, and we'd go all the way down to Dana Point, and we'd come up the coast and everything. We'd all meet at Orange County Harley, and then they would. He cracked up the other day when I was at Bruce McDougall's. He going, yeah, and Clanton would only ride them one way. We'd have to take them home because I would just show up. I'd get a ride down to Orange County Harley, and then I'd just ride down. I'd ride the bike to Costa Mesa, and then they'd take it back to the shop. But I got to ride, like, you remember the V Rod? I got to ride one of those V Rods.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty exciting bike to ride, let me tell you. And then the other one, I did Buell too. I rode one of them Buells. That was a wheelie machine because it was a real short wheelbase, so you could do good wheelies on that. But anyway, yeah, Harley Nights were fun. They're a lot of fun. And hopefully we're going to get back to it. I'm hoping that 2021 we're going to get over this deal and get back to racing at Costa Mesa and the City of Industry too. You know, City of Industry is another one. That the racing out there is unbelievable. You know that at the end of the night, those guys can ride that outside way up against the fence and make some just great passes. And the racing out at City of Industry has been dynamite too. And we just need to promote Speedway as a whole in Southern California. You know, everybody needs to tell everybody about all the tracks and stuff. When we get back to going and get going here in Southern California, we're going to need everybody to pitch in and on social media and everything and tell them, you know, about Costa Mesa and the City of Industry, because Kelly Inman does a great job out there, and he's looking forward to getting going when he can go as well as, you know, as Costa Mesa Speedway. So.
Do you talk to Kelly about the 2021 season and Brad Oxley? Do they call you or text you or something and like tell you anything? What have they said about the upcoming season? Because it's coming soon.
Well, it is, but it's really out of their hands right now, because those are both. Even though the City of Industry Speedway. Well, first off, Costa Mesa Speedway is a state run. It's a state run fairground. So as long as our governor keeps everything locked down, we're not going to have Costa Mesa Speedway. And when I talked to Kelly Inman about it, even though they're not a state fairground, they're still under the same rules and regulation as Costa Mesa. So it looks like, from what I can see, is it looks like that Industry and Costa Mesa will get started at the same time when we get back to racing. That's what I'm thinking. So.
I hope so. And I know Jaylene Oxley is really excited, wanting to get the 2021 season going. She was talking the other day. I read a comment. She said, I guess if they get going, she says it's going to be bigger and better than ever, Costa Mesa. So they're excited. They're pumped. You know, they want to get that season going. They want this a big season to come on. So they're really pumped.
Well, also people want to get out of the house, man. People want to get out and do things, you know. It's like people have been locked up like they've been in jail, you know, and it's like they really want to get out and do. And I feel it. I'm ready to get back to work too. You know, it's been a tough year for me too, because, you know, I've you know, just been tough, you know, with no races to announce, you know. So I want to get this thing over with and get back to it, you know, as soon as we can. So
I bet it's hard on you to. That's why I did blogging. Actually, they were told to stay home and clean your house and smell all the chlorine and all this crap. And I'm like, no, I don't want to die like that. So I went outside and started blogging motorcycle racers, speedway riders, Evil Knievel, and all these different things. And I did it just so I wouldn't stay home. And I started, actually, my channel started growing. And I actually got into blogging more full time because I did not want to stay home during the pandemic. And I wanted to do something. I would go crazy if I just stay home and like smelled all the bad chemicals and stuff. So that's why I got into blogging more heavy and doing the show, like now even.
I miss it. I have been focusing on other things right now, and I've been focusing on my business down in Tombstone, and you know, I have a walk through attraction, kind of kind of like a Disneyland type thing. It's a walkthrough attraction called Ike Clanton's Haunted Hotel and Tombstone Ghost and Legends Tour. It's a walkthrough attraction. So I've been focusing on that, and just you know, I'm really ready to get back to racing, but I'm also, you know, the entertainment industry has started already working, filming stuff and everything, and so hopefully that's going to come turn around for me too, because you know I do occasional things in the acting field too. In fact, I was supposed to do a thing. You could see this. I got it going again because maybe I'm thinking they're going to call us back. I was supposed to be doing a TV show on April 7th, and I had met with them down in Arizona twice, the production company, and we were ready to film it. And I had met the crew and everything, and then of course we know what happened after that, and they shut everything down. And so I haven't heard back from them because they said on right before we went, like 2 weeks before April 7th, they said we're going to be on a soft hold. This virus, we're going to be on a soft hold. Well, this soft hold has turned into like a year. Okay, so anyway, so I actually shaved it all off. I was tired of the mustache, and I was tired of it. So I shaved it all off. When I knew it was going to be a long time, I shaved it all off. And then November coming around, so I started growing it all back. And now I think, okay, well, maybe they'll call back and we're going to get that TV show going again, and we'll see what happens. And so, yeah, just you know, gotta
Well,
keep
going
trying
back
to
a few
pay the
years
bills.
ago, you're gonna hopefully get that thing going and just get the pandemic thing over so you can start filming and making some money.
Yeah, no, we'll I'm really hopeful that we're gonna. I just want them to open everything back up. You know, I think everybody needs to. This is just my opinion. I know that the virus is serious. I don't want to get into politics at all during their show or anything, but I know the virus is real. I know we all got to take precautions. I mean, people, you know, I know it's serious, but I also think that they need to open everything back up, and people that want to go out and do whatever they got to do and keep their businesses open, and everything. We got to do that. We got to open stuff back up. You know, got to open the restaurants back up. You know, if you're going to fly airplanes around the United States with full airplanes with people landing everywhere, and you're going to have, and you got full Costco's and grocery stores and Walmart and all that, and these tons of people everywhere. And I went by the Cerritos Mall today, and there was cars everywhere. Okay, if you're going to do that, then open the restaurants, man. Otherwise, we're going to have a Southern California. Well, the restaurants are going to be all boarded up. So anyway, that's my say on that. Get back to racing now.
I agree. You know, I'm going to ask you this question, but my 2 cents on what you just said was like, you got to give people their freedom. You know, like, since when does the government care about your health? I mean, that much. They don't care about anybody probably. And so you should have the right to choose to go out and not go out. And also, you know, it's just everyone has a right for freedom and their choice, and that should not ever be taken away from people. So
it started way back, Brian. It started way back, like with the helmet law. You know, I wouldn't ride a motorcycle on the street without a helmet. Not anymore. I did when I was younger, but you know, when the helmet law came about, you know, that they made it mandatory to wear helmets. You know, want to splatter your brains all over the sidewalk, then go ahead, but don't tell me. You know what I'm saying. It's like one of those deals where
nobody cares. The government doesn't care. The police don't care about you. They just care about the money. They want the money.
Right. No, I mean, wearing a helmet is, if I wasn't wearing a helmet, I wouldn't be here on this earth anymore. I've had a lot of bad crashes. So
yeah. So let's go back a few years ago. You hosted a really cool show for 7 years called the Haunted Saloon. How did that get started? And what the heck was all that about?
The Haunted Saloon. The Haunted Saloon was well, first off, Mark Williams, you know, was involved. We just lost Mark this last year too, or it's been maybe 2 years since we lost Mark Williams, and he helped me get that thing started, because that was the Haunted Saloon was the very first internet TV show on the internet, bar none. There was none. Okay, And I had to buy the bandwidth. I had to buy the time on. I had to buy the bandwidth, and they had to help me do it. And it was really tough. But anyway, and I had the idea to have this Old West saloon and the characters, and of course I was Ike Clanton and Bruce Flanders and Miss Vicky, Bruce's wife, Vicky Flanders. They were two characters, and we decided to separate them from the time we got started. Bruce was Bruce the bartender, and Miss Vicky was Miss Vicky. So it wasn't like on the show they weren't married. Okay, they were like separate characters. And then we had saloon girls. We had numerous saloon girls, and then we had guests every week. We had guests, and man, we had some, in studio. We had a lot of the motocrossers. We had Speedway guys. We had Bruce Penhall and Billy Hamill, and I'm trying to think. We had Chris Slade from AC/DC. He's a friend of mine. He came about, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and Bobby Vagura, another rock star. Then we did the final interview of Evel Knievel in the Haunted Saloon as well. That's on YouTube too, on the YouTube channel. In fact, I got to get that thing going again, because the problem is I lost it when they went to Google or whatever. I lost what email. I can't even get into my own account on Haunted Saloon, so I got to get back to that. But and maybe even start doing some more Haunted Saloons or something. But yeah, for 7 years. That was our every Tuesday night for 7 years. I'll tell you a little secret about it too. A lot of people don't know this, but maybe you watch this to the Haunted Saloon. But at the time I was doing that, I lived in Norco, which is the horse capital of the world, and that studio was built in a 1-car garage. Okay, it looked big. And if you watch that show, when Bruce and I were standing there and sitting there side by side talking to everybody, and we're like, hey, you over at table 8, knock it off, all right? There was nobody there. We were looking at the garage door. So, that was the garage door. We made all that up, and ad-libbed it. And then when I went to Tombstone, we had to have another set. So what we did was I had my set in the basement of my house in Tombstone. And so Bruce would call into the show, and I would look up, and I'd go, Bruce, what's going on upstairs? And he'd go, oh, we got a nudist convention, man, and everybody's naked, or he'd say something, Bruce. So
Yeah.
So we had a good run with that every Tuesday night for 7 years, and that's why I didn't get burnt out, but because everybody said, why don't you do a talk show? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Man, I did 7 years every Tuesday night, and I've kind of done my run on it, but I might do something again sometime.
That would be fun. We would like that. So I have a question. Out of all the guests that you had on the Haunted Saloon, I saw the Billy Hamill, I saw the Bruce Penhall classic shows. Both those guys are classic. And Evel Knievel was pretty dang good. I think Brad Oxley was on it. I think he was on it.
Brad was on there too. Yeah. Oh, we did 7 years,
Okay.
so we had a lot of people. And everybody signed the wall too. Go ahead. What was your question?
Yeah. I was going to ask, who was your favorite person on your show in 7 years?
Oh, that's a tough one. You can't say who was the favorite. I enjoyed them all, and they were all different. I mean, we had incredible magicians. We had a guy that had his hand come through. I opened up my coat, and his hand came through my stomach. I mean, that's on YouTube. Go look at that.
I didn't see that.
I'll have to post that on my personal page sometime. And anyway, but
Wow.
So that his name was Ryan the Magician. But yeah, to pick one out of 7 years of guests, it'd be hard. I mean, they were all different too. They were all really good. So.
Well, I liked them all too, and but the one that really was cool for me was Evel Knievel. Just before he died, you had that interview with Evel, and he was talking about like how he cleaned the floor with different soap suds and stuff like that. And I was like, what the heck? And Evel Knievel was classic. He was cool.
Brian, Evel Knievel became my friend, like my friend to the point where he would call me. In fact, at the last stage, he would call me quite often. And how he became my friend was I first met him when I was announcing for the Agajanians at Ascot Park, and I would meet him at parties and things, you know, after the races and some of the Agajanian events that they would have, and Evil would be there, and I met him there. And then there was a time, I don't remember what year it was, but I was hired to be a co-host on one of those shows that sells, like, you know, Joe Montana signed football. Call 1-800-999-444. This is only $49.95, and you can get it right now. In fact, you have 10 seconds to get that. You know, anyway, I was on one of those shows. And how this took place is I flew on a red eye. Here was the kicker to it. And remember now, Evel Knievel was my childhood hero. Okay. I mean, I'm not an autograph seeker. I'm just not into that. I mean, I work around people that are like that like that. And I'm not an autograph seeker, but if there was one autograph that I would ever want, it would be Evel Knievel's, you know, because he really was my childhood hero. I mean, I was him. I used to jump trash cans as a kid and all. So anyway, so I was going to be on this red eye flight, and what happened was a red eye out of LA to Clearwater, Florida, and then I was going to sleep on the airplane, and then I was going to do this show all day, you know, film all day. We were going to film these deals, which we did. But so anyway, so I get on the red eye at LAX, and my seatmate is Evel Knievel. Okay, he's sitting right next to me. And I'm like, oh man, how cool is this? Evel Knievel's my seatmate, and we're going to fly across the United States. And he goes, and we take off, and, you know, everybody starts closing down the shades and everything like that. And Evel says to me, he goes, I can't sleep on these damn airplanes. And I said, so I thought about it for a second. I thought, neither can I. Let's just stay up all night and tell each other stories. And he goes, sounds good to me. I'm like, oh my God, I got, you know, 4 hours of asking Evel Knievel questions, you know. Anyway, so we became quite good friends, and I remember that after we landed and everything, he gave me his. I didn't ask him for it. He gave me his business card. It said Evel Knievel on it, and then on the back he wrote "Happy Landings, Evel Knievel." Pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow.
So, anyway,
that's cool.
But so he would call me periodically. And in fact, he knew about my show and stuff. In fact, you know, he was sick. He was really sick, and he was really dying. And I have to say that Jay Agajanian was the one that actually set up that final interview. I just thought he was too sick to even do it. And Jay asked him. He said, you know, and we really made it special for him too, because his hero, when he was racing before he ever became the jumper, Evel Knievel, was Sammy Tanner. His hero was Sammy Tanner. So I brought Sammy into the Haunted Saloon, and he was sitting next to me when we called in, when Evel Knievel called into the show, because he was on the phone from Florida, and Sammy was all dressed up in the Old West gear, and Evel wasn't watching because he was just on the phone. And I go, Evel, you'll never guess who I have next to me. And he goes, who? I said, Sammy Tanner. And he goes, Sammy Tanner, the Flying Flea, national number 7? And I go, yeah, he's sitting right next to me. And he goes, oh my God, he was my hero. And Sammy goes, hi, Evel. That's great. That's on YouTube as well. Yeah.
I saw that. That's awesome. That is awesome. That's too bad. Awesome.
Oh, by the way,
let's change this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Change subject. No, I was just going to say that
Okay.
we brought out that Evel Knievel painted. He was an artist too. He painted Western landscapes. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have a painting.
Wow. It's amazing. He's really talented. Evel Knievel was like a hockey player when he was young, and he was a troublemaker, and he got into all kinds of law run-ins, and he was a rebel, and he was just a crazy dude. And he made all those millions, and then lost millions, and made millions. The guy had an incredible life, Evel Knievel. I mean, it's just like he lived like 20 lives in one life.
Yeah. You wanted to meet Sparky too,
Amazing.
right? Sparky.
Yeah, I wanna meet Sparky, and so tell me about like how I guess what happened was is you were on a bike ride going to Cabazon where the dinosaurs are, going towards Palm Springs, and you were kind of leaving like Merino Valley area, and then you had like a problem like with your heart, you had to stop, and then you called your buddy, your BFF, Bruce Flanders, and you said, "Hey, come pick me up." And then Bruce picked you up, and then brought you home, and then it was you for a few days. You had a very serious heart problem, but you didn't know it because you're a stubborn son of a gun. And
That's
then
exactly
and
right.
then you went to the doctors, and they said that you need this pacemaker, this heart maker to keep you ticking. And so, what happened with all that? And you still have it to this day, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that was good job. That was a good story you told. But that's pretty close to what happened. Yeah, I was trying to ride with Kenny Livingston. I was riding day two with him. He was riding well, he was going to ride a beach cruiser and did across the United States. And he's a stud. I see him periodically, and he's my Facebook friend. But anyway, yeah, I had third degree heart block and had a pacemaker implanted in my chest after I went code blue at St. Joseph Hospital in Orange. Yeah, I went code blue, and then that next morning or next day, they put in a pacemaker, and it brought me back. I didn't have a heart attack, and I didn't damage my heart at all. I basically blew out the electrical system. It's called third degree heart block, not meaning blockage of like arteries, meaning block like electrical block, like if you had wires from the top to the bottom of your heart, it's like somebody snipped mine. Okay. So anyway, yeah, and then you know what? I was really had just started riding bicycles, and I really wanted to ride and get back in shape because a year before that, I had broke my back in a boating accident on Memorial Weekend. And a lot of you maybe remember Costa Mesa. I had to wear that body cast for 6 months. I got really out of shape and stuff, so I started cycling and on a mountain bike, and wanted to start riding. And then just after I started is when that happened. But then I was like, oh man, I'm never going to get to ride my bicycle again or anything like that. And so a couple weeks after the pacemaker was put in, maybe a month, 3 weeks to a month out, I started riding again. And I just put together this incredible, like amazing goal that I figured I'd never be able to reach, but I just decided because goals have always worked for me. Put a goal out there, and try to go, try to reach your goal. And I still continue to do that today. But after I got my
Awesome.
pacemaker, I actually, I find out how far it is around the world. It's like 25,000 miles. So I thought, all right, well, they told me that I have 10 years left on my battery. And so I figured, well, before Sparky, that's my name for my pacemaker. I'm sure I've named him Sparky. And before Sparky runs out of juice, I'm going to ride the equivalent of 25,000 miles around planet Earth. So a few years ago, I accomplished that goal of 25,000 miles. So then I thought, okay, I have a couple of years left on my battery. Okay, now I want 30,000 miles. So I got to 30,000 miles, and July was 10 years. So and this is in the middle of the pandemic and all this stuff and the lockdown and everything. And I went, and I still have. They told me I have till February. I think in February I'm gonna have to have another surgery to put a new pacemaker in or whatever, or change the battery. I don't know what they're gonna do. But so now I'm at like 30. I'm 31,000 now. 31,000 miles on one pacemaker battery. So I think I should call
Wow.
Duracell and Duracell. I think I should call Duracell or Everready and try to get a sponsorship. But
Hey,
anyway,
buddy.
yeah. So I
Wow.
ride quite a bit, and this year I only got like I'm at like 2,100 miles. Um, but normally for the last 10 years, I've averaged over 3,000 miles a year for 10 years. So
That's insane. That's a tribute. That's really a tribute to you for that. Um, I was going to change the subject again a little bit. I keep changing the subject. I'm
that's
always
all right. That's all right.
like
Hey, it's all fun.
wild all over.
It's good.
I want to change the subject. Now, remember when we were hanging out a few years ago? We went to the river, me and you alone, and we went there for Memorial Day. I think it was Labor Day or Memorial. I forget which one. and we were hanging out at the river, having fun, partying and stuff. And then that night I kind of didn't know where I was going to sleep, and you said, "Don't worry, I have a place for you." And so we went to this old like haunted house, and I'm like, "What is this?" And you said, "That's my house. That's Wyatt Earp and his wife's only house, and you, Bumblebee, are going to sleep in that house." And I'm like, "Oh." And so
Yeah.
I slept in that house all night long, and it was really scary. It was like haunted house, and there was like ghosts in the house, and it
No
was
doubt.
really scary. And I'm like, "Harry, what did you do to me?" And I'd see the picture of Wyatt Earp and his wife like looking at me, and I was
Yeah.
I was having bad dreams and stuff. What's all that about?
Well, you know what? That came about with a gentleman named Tom. He owned that house for like 30 years, and he it's the only house that Wyatt and Josie Earp ever owned together, and they spent their winter months out in Vidal by the river, and then they would spend their summer months in a bungalow here in Los Angeles, and it was yeah. So anyway, I make a long story short, it was offered to me because the guy Tom had terminal cancer. They told him he had like 4 months to live, so he needed to sell it, and he put it out on the internet for to all the Wyatt Earp people, Wyatt Earp Society, contacted all of the message boards and things like that, trying to unload it to somebody that loves Wyatt Earp. So then he made a joke about it. He said, "Hey, if the Earps don't want it, maybe the Clantons do." So anyway, that's how it was presented to me. They said somebody walked up, a friend of mine walked up and goes, "Hey, Ike Clanton should buy Wyatt Earp's house." Anyway, I did, and we've had fun with it. And I'm getting ready to sell it now though, because I really want somebody that wants to make it into a museum. Somebody that loves Wyatt Earp and loves the history and all that stuff. I'm just about, I'm ready to. It's pretty much fixed up and everything like that. It's just I have all of my stuff going down in Tombstone and a business down there and all that kind of stuff now. I didn't have that all when I had the Wyatt Earp house, when I bought the Wyatt Earp house. So I'm just real busy. So I just anyway, yeah, it's I'm gonna put it up for sale pretty soon. Kind of just sell it
That's
for what I
cool.
have in it. And yeah.
That was. I want to ask you a question. Was that a haunted house, or was I just hallucinating?
Oh no, yeah. Is it haunted? It's one of the most haunted buildings ever. I'm really into the old ghost stuff because I have to be. In Tombstone, I've experienced so much. Um, yeah, it's very haunted, and I have lots of stories about it too. Music has come on. In fact, it was one of my favorites was stories was Terry Earp. She's passed on now too. Terry Earp was married to a gentleman named Wyatt Earp, and she was a playwright, and she wrote a play, like a one-man show, to play Josie Earp. And she called me one day and asked me if she could come and take pictures. And I was down there with my family, and my mother and Garland were down there, and a few of us were there. And I said, "Yeah, come on out. We're here. Come on out and um, and take pictures." So she came out with a photographer herself, and my mom. The rest of them were gone, but my mother was still there, and she was inside the Wyatt Earp house. And we went over to across the street, the railroad tracks, took pictures, and and my mom came out of the house. She goes, "Hey, are you playing music, or what's the music about?" I'm like, "No music." So when we went back over there, anyway, evidently old time music was playing inside of the Wyatt Earp house. Well, the three women now, Terry and her photographer and my mother and I were standing there, and on came the music, and there was no way music could play because everything was unplugged. There was nothing plugged in that would play music. And they came to find out, they even know what tune it was. I forget what the name of it is, but it was Josie Earp's favorite song was playing in the Earp house.
Oh,
Now
wow.
here's the odd part. Only the women could hear it. I couldn't hear it. They're all like, "Are you hearing this music?" "Oh yeah." Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't hear anything. So only the women could hear it. I couldn't hear it.
That's weird. That
Yeah.
was a
So,
spooky house.
and then
I
another
was really
time,
scared.
the chain I was sleeping in that bed in the White Earth house, and the chain from the fan, the ceiling fan, the chain kept going like this. And I laid there and just rationalized, like, wow, the windows aren't open. How's that doing that? It just kept going around, around, around. I fell asleep. The next day I got up, I was jumping around the bed. It was just, it wouldn't move. I don't know. It's
Um,
it's haunted. So yes, very, very haunted.
I was really, I'm not as scared of anything. And I survived. It's not like I died or anything, but I was kind of like scared out of my wits. And I was just really scared in that house. And I'm like, Terry, what did you do? You put me in Wyatt Earp and his wife's haunted house all night. And you were sleeping in the house in the back. So that was not fair.
Yeah, well, got to do it once. Yeah, no.
Thank you so much. That was cool because now I have a story to tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
That was cool. Yeah, that was cool. And this year was a very difficult year for all of us with everything going on. And also, we lost a very special person this year, a famous announcer and your BFF, Mr. Bruce Flanders, the legendary announcer, Bruce Flanders. This guy was a legend in all the Speedway and motorsports. And I know he was very close to you. You guys did the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach together. You guys were buddies. You did the Haunted Saloon. He was like your brother. And how did you take his passing this year? It's so sad.
Oh man, it was tough. It was really tough. And this is that if you smoke, stop smoking, because that COPD is a horrible way to die. I mean, it's a slow death. I mean, it started back. They gave him, let's see. So this was this year. So they gave him 4 months to live. He was stage 4 COPD, and they gave him 4 months to live 13 years ago. But he quit smoking cold turkey. If he wouldn't have quit smoking, he probably wouldn't have lasted 4 months. But he quit smoking, and he went on full-time oxygen for 13 years. And God bless him. He kept working, he kept announcing, he kept doing the Grand Prix. And he was at the end, it wasn't that he couldn't announce, he couldn't do the stairs. He was more worried about the stairs at like City of Industry Speedway or at the Grand Prix. He wasn't worried about the announcing. That came easy. He couldn't do the stairs to get to the announcing booth. Anyway,
Mm.
yeah, I lost my best friend, and I got to tell you, it was tough. But if it wasn't for Bruce Flanders, um, I wouldn't be announcing today. That he's the one that actually took me under his wing, taught me everything he knows, or what he could. I mean, he was just he was there for me. And I would talk to him, daily. And no, it was tough. And the thing that made it even tougher was the fact is that Miss Vicky, his wife, Vicky, was was also one of my best friends. And she was his caregiver. And then she died like a year and a half before he passed. So yeah, tough time.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, nice. Oh, well, he really helped you out, and you're really a good friend. I remember talking to you when he was sick, and then I would say, "Hey Terry, are you going to be announcing the Industry Hills?" Because I know he was a full-time announcer at Industry Hills, and you're a good friend. And you said, "I don't want to step on Bruce's feet because I don't want to take over his show." So you were always in the back burner waiting for Bruce to call you because you didn't want to like upset your buddy or like step over him when
Oh
he
no.
was even sick. So
No, we
you
never
want to
would
do
do that.
that.
In fact, we covered for each other. I remember when I had I was in a tragic thing and had to have plastic surgery in my face and everything like that. And back in the 80s, and Flanders went and worked at Ascot for me. And I was a victim of violent crime, actually, what it was. But anyway, yeah, no, we never did that. We always were there for each other, and we never did. And in fact, the last 2 years of him announcing at the City of Industry, the reason why he went too is because I told him, listen, you know what, you just tell me, whenever you can't do it, and I'll be there for you. I don't care whether it's an hour before or whatever, the night before, whatever. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Bruce Flanders was a trooper, man. I mean, he couldn't breathe. The man couldn't breathe, and he went to like City of Industry every Wednesday night, and he would announce those races. And a couple times, like during the year, like one time he called me at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was on the freeway going somewhere else, and he called me and he goes, "Hey man, it's you tonight. I can't do it tonight." So I turned around and went out to City of Industry and announced, and it was tough for me to get up there and tell everyone that he was under the weather, and he couldn't be here, and everything. But I'm just filling in for him, and he'll be back next week. And yeah, it just was. And then he gave me that phone call that just said, "This is tough." He said, "It's you this year, man. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it." And I know that was like the toughest thing for him to do, was to say, "I can't do it anymore, and it's you this year." And I even tried to get him to be involved in it, like when we had the Bruce Flanders Ugly Hawaiian Shirt Contest, and I told him, "You can watch online, and why don't you just be a judge or something?" And he goes, "Nah." He goes, "You've announced enough of these with me. You just do it, And but he was going to give the Grand Prix one last shot this last year, and we went, because of COVID, we couldn't do it in April. And we were gonna actually lift him up to the grandstands. We were gonna get a lift. Bob Braden and Jim McKellion, the CEO, and we were all gonna work together. And I don't know what we were gonna do, but we were gonna get some kind of a lift to lift him up into the announcer's booth at the Grand Prix. But nah, losing Bruce Flanders was really tough. It was tough, and it's still tough because he hasn't had a memorial service because of the COVID lockdown, and his family has decided, that they want to make it, they want to make it a celebration of life, and they want to invite everybody that wants to come, and I'm behind them 100%. It's like they didn't want to do it where people can't come to the service. So there has been no memorial service for Bruce. There has been some tributes and things that were like awesome. Tom Blattler had some stickers made up, and if Bruce knew this, he would just have a smile on his face right now up in Nevin. He would have a smile on his face to know that there was a tribute sticker made, and it said Bruce Flanders, and it said it was like from Long Beach, racing at the beach or something. I remember what it was, but anyway, they put them on the Indy cars. They ran them at the Indy 500. The guys put them on their cars, so Bruce was going around in the Indy 500. How cool is that? If he knew that, he would be like totally jazzed to know that his sticker was going around. And then we ran them. A lot of us ran the same sticker. Tom Blattler sent stickers to me, and I ran them on the front, like I ran them on my front of my bike for the Tombstone Trail Ride. That Tombstone Trail Ride meant a lot to me because leading up to his passing, Bruce knew all about it. He knew that Kenny Roberts was coming, and Eddie Lawson and Doug Farrell, and he knew Bubba Schobert was coming. He knew all these guys were coming, and he told me, "Man, I wish I could go," And so he knew all about that too. So it meant a lot to me, that Tombstone Trail Ride for Bruce, So yep.
Well, one thing Bruce couldn't give you was his banter, his baritone voice. He had the best baritone voice in the
He did.
world.
He
Bruce
did. He had
Flanders
pipes.
was amazing.
He had the best pipes. Him and yeah, no, he had. I'm trying to think of the other guy's name that worked at the Long Beach, and he just passed too. But just yeah, he had great pipes, and what made Bruce
Oh,
Flanders too with his announcing too was his quick wit and humor. He was very quick witted and very humorous, and he would say stuff off the cuff, and we really worked well together because it was so funny because when we did the Haunted Saloon, it was like reverse roles. I was the one that played the character, like the crazy pirate, and that I dressed up as a woman and played Holly Hooker, and I would do all the characters, and he was the straight man. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like reverse roles. But nah, he was a character and so colorful and a one of a kind. Bruce Flanders was a one of a kind, and he's surely going to be missed. And I think about him every day. And I just there's been already numerous times where I want to call him up and talk to him and ask him questions and but he's not there anymore. That's just tough.
so sad. He came up to me one day at industry. I was in the pits before the races, and I was working on my bike, checking my air pressure and stuff. And Bruce didn't talk to me very much, not really. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, Brian, how much do you weigh? What's your weight?" And I said, "Oh, I think I was pretty fat at the time. I was like 260 or something, or 255 or something. I'm not that now. I was a little heavier." And then he said, "Okay, goodbye." And I said, "What the heck was that all about?" So he just asked me, like, "What's your weight?" And then he's gone. He had that wit to him. So
Well, he
I'm
used it
racing
probably that
and I'm
night.
watching the video. Huh?
Yeah, he used it probably that night announcing.
He did. He used it tonight. He said, "And Brian is riding tonight. He's 6'1", 255. He should be a football player, not one of these racers for the Speedway. He shouldn't be a Speedway racer. He should be a football player." He said, "If we had a football Speedway team, I would want Brian on my team."
That's right.
Oh, and
Yeah,
he
we've
was
got.
funny.
Oh man, he was funny, and we had a lot of good times, like at the Grand Prix too. We've over the years I mean, I could write a book on some of the funny stories that we did and had, and so
Uh,
it's going to be surely missed. This
well,
next
we love.
year they've switched the Grand Prix, by the way, to September, so
Wow.
it's not going to be in April. It's going to be in September.
Well, they push it back.
Pushed it back to September.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, good. I hope it runs because we missed that September this last year, the Grand Prix, the Acura
Yeah.
Grand Prix. They changed the
Yeah.
name from Toyota to Acura, I guess.
Yeah, Toyota was the longtime sponsor, but then Toyota moved their business and everything to Texas. They moved. Toyota's no longer in Southern California, so they really, they pulled the plug on it. Not because of the Grand Prix, because they had a great relationship. Toyota left with a great relationship too. They literally just left because of they went to Texas because Toyota was very good to the Grand Prix, and the Grand Prix was very good to Toyota, and they had a really good relationship. But when they went to Texas, then Acura came in and became the name sponsor.
Well, I remember when Bruce was a young whippersnapper, and he was like a side announcer or sweeper boy or something. And the announcer for the Toyota Grand Prix, he said it was the Nissan Grand Prix or something like that. And I guess the promoter got pissed off because he should have said Toyota Grand Prix, and the announcer said, "Yeah, welcome to the Nissan Grand Prix," and he was joking, I guess. And the promoter was like mad and went up to Bruce Flanders and said, "Bruce, you get up there in the announcer's booth. I'm firing that guy because he announced the Toyota Grand Prix wrong, and you're going to be my new announcer." And so he put Bruce back on that thing, and they fired that guy for screwing up, for making a joke. And Bruce became the announcer of the Toyota Grand Prix.
Yeah, and also Bruce a few years back was honored by the Grand Prix Association and the city of Long Beach, and he's on the Motorsports Walk of Fame. He has like a star, like a star down in Hollywood. So if you're ever on Pine Avenue, right in front of the backside of the sports arena, you'll see where they are and the drivers and all that stuff, and look for Bruce Flanders and stop by his Walk of Fame star. Yeah.
Very cool. Just an amazing legend, Bruce Flanders. He's going to be hard to fill his shoes, Terry. I mean, he's going to be hard.
There's only one Bruce Flanders. He was like the best. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And he really was. And you don't try to, as an announcer, we all look up to Bruce Flanders. You just try to do the best you can, but we've all learned from Bruce, and yeah, he was the man for sure.
Wow. Well, let's change topics. We love you, Bruce Flanders. Rest in peace, my friend, because we all miss you so much. And if you're listening to the show in heaven, we all miss you and love you so much, Bruce Flanders.
Amen.
We love him.
Amen.
We love Bruce. We miss him. We miss Bruce so much. So, changing the topic from Bruce is your mother. Your mother, Mary Ann, she's probably the most adorable lady I know on this planet, and she's like pushing 90 years old or something, and she's still so active. She was riding her bicycle. She has season tickets to the Angel games. She's going to watching the Angels, and I watched you do the live stream on Facebook the other day. You guys were at Balboa Pier on the ferry going over, watching the Christmas light parade, and your mother's so cute. She's like, "Oh, Terry, this is nice." I love that lady. She reminds me of my mom. Tell me, how does she keep her health so good? And she's like pushing 90, right?
No, she's 91, pushing 92. She'll be 90 in August. She'll be 92, and she's still doing good. She and her mother lived to 99. I mean, my mom, when my grandmother died, my mother was 76 years old. So little longevity there. It's good, But I'll tell you something that both of my grandmother and my mother, part of the reason why I believe that they've lived so long is because they never ate meat. My grandmother never ate meat and didn't drink milk or anything like that. And my mother's never eaten meat. And then after I, and I did, when I was growing up and stuff, my mom would even cook it for me and my brother and stuff. And my dad didn't eat much meat, but my mom never ate it. She would always, even when we went out, if she would always bring it home to the dog, But anyway, after I told you I broke my back and all that kind of stuff, and then I started riding, I was out of shape and everything. Well, then I had a bout with kidney stones. In fact, it was the night after. It was the Harley night. It was a Harley night at Costa Mesa Speedway. I had just finished announcing, and we all went over to Hooters. And I literally, I thought my appendix burst. I literally thought my appendix had burst, and they called an ambulance because I was hurting so bad. I was in tremendous pain. And anyway, it was kidney stones. And I had 8 millimeter and 9 millimeter, and they were locked together in my kidney, and they had to do surgery to get them out. I couldn't, anyway, make a long story short, I said, this is it. Okay, whatever it takes, I want to go on the best diet I could possibly eat, and so I started researching it. So I was vegetarian for 3 weeks, and then I was announcing at the Fair Derby. And one of the jumpers, you guys might know him. He's a pretty famous guy, Todd Potter from the Metal Militia. Remember Todd Potter, multi-time X Games gold medalist and stuff. Well, anyway, Todd was standing there and he overheard me tell somebody I was vegetarian. He goes, "You're vegetarian?" I go, "Yeah, for only about 3 weeks." He goes, "Why are you vegetarian?" He goes, "The dairy is worse than the meat." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well," he goes, "Haven't you heard of Dr. T. Colin Campbell and the China study, or have you ever heard of Dr. McDougall, or have you ever watched the movie Forks Over Knives?" And I went, "No." So I went home and I watched this and I went, oh, wow, no kidding. And so anyway, so I went to a completely vegan diet, plant-based, no meat, no dairy, no fish, no animal products at all. And my cholesterol in 3 months went from like over 300, just a little over 300 to 188 in 3 months. My triglycerides were in the red. They came right down. Anyway, but I really didn't know what I was doing, so I went back to college and I got my certificate through Cornell University in plant-based nutrition. And then now here I am. I got this certificate in plant-based nutrition, and I know a lot about all of this stuff, but I have no delivery. I have no way to get this information out. So I started an Instagram page just to help people. I have never made a dime off this. All it is to help people. I'm not going to push it on you. That's not what my deal is. It's all about just helping people. I mean, maybe you have high cholesterol. Maybe you've had open heart surgery. Dangerous Dub Farrell. It saved his life with some of this stuff. The EBCT scan. The number of you have heard me talk about. Anyway, so I started an Instagram page, and I thought, well, I don't really want to be my name. I don't want to be Terry Ike Clanton, so I'll make up a name. So I thought, what am I going to do? I got my pacemaker, and I went to a vegan diet, Bionic Vegan. So I started this page on Instagram called Bionic Vegan, and it just took off. And it took off, and all I was doing is just helping people, and that's basically what I've done. I've never made a dime off it. I've had people offer me money for advertising and all kinds of things because it has like, I don't know, over 60,000 followers now, and they've people have asked me, but no, it's not about that. It's just about helping people and giving back, because I truly believe in it. I truly believe in plant-based nutrition, and so my mother. Now getting back to my mother, you brought this. This is how it got all started. My mother is plant-based nutrition, and so was my grandmother, but my mom cooks incredible meals, all plant-based. And I put if you go to bionic_vegan, you'll see like my mother's Christmas dinner, it was all plant-based. And for Thanksgiving, if you were here, you would think you're eating turkey and dressing and everything. It was all plant-based. Just unbelievable. There's no cholesterol. People don't realize that there's no. In fact, Vicki Flanders wanted to bet me one time. She goes, "Oh no, there's cholesterol in plants." I said, "No, there's no cholesterol in plants." It's been over 5 years now. I have not eaten any cholesterol for over 5 years. Your body makes all the cholesterol that you need. All the rest of it clogs up your arteries and your heart and stuff. So, yeah. So no, there's no cholesterol in plants. Only animals, including humans. I bet your body makes all the cholesterol that it needs, so yeah.
Yeah. Your mom's adorable, and she reminds me of my mom. Rest in peace, my mom. But your mom is just, she's like my mom. Every time I see your mom, I love that lady. She's really awesome.
Well,
cool.
so the other thing is too that I want her to come on. I'd love her. Maybe I should interview her and put her on too. But she's talking about World War II because she says that this COVID thing, this is worse than World War II. This really is. This is horrible. And and she's 91 years old. And I'm going to tell you something else. She's not in a big hurry to get the vaccine either. She's not. Okay, she doesn't do flu shots. My mother doesn't do any medication or anything. She doesn't. She doesn't do any medication, no nothing, and when we were in the middle of this lockdown, and and I've been staying with my mom to keep her going through the lockdown and helping her and all that kind of stuff and everything. And during the lockdown, she finally said, "You know what? I've had it. If I get this thing, I'll get over it. I'm going to put my mask on. I'm going to the store." So she started going to Sprouts and started going to Ralph's and everything. And she's just been living her life. She wears her mask and protective and all that stuff. But now, as we speak right now we've locked down again. Now we're going to do home delivery on the groceries because some of my friends that work in the medical industry have told me that they think that some of the greatest transmission of COVID-19 is in grocery stores. So I don't know, but that could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I've been told. So
Mm.
I think I'm
Yeah.
not about right now. We're just we're laying low right now. So yeah,
Yeah.
seems like
Did you ever get bit by a rattlesnake? Did you
I
ever get
did.
bit by a rattlesnake?
I did.
What
I did
happened?
when I was riding my mountain bike. And that was 2 weeks before. It was a week and a half before I had my heart block, and they think maybe some of the venom because they said it was a dry hit. A very high percentage of rattlesnake bites are what they call dry hits. In other words, they get you with the fangs, and I had the two little red marks on the back of my leg, but it didn't ingest any venom. And it's a good thing too,
Right.
because the guy that owned the rattlesnake exhibit in Tombstone, I came down out of the hills and came straight. He was out actually in the street, and he told me, he goes, yeah, it's a dry hit. And I go, how do you say it's a dry hit? He goes, because you would have never made it out of the hills. So I had to ride. I was way back in the hills, and I had to ride out. I was by myself, and I didn't have. I was in Tombstone, and I was way out in the middle. I was way out in the hills, and I didn't have cell service either. So I had no choice but to ride out. So I rode out. Thank God it was downhill, a lot of it. But yeah. But there's a chance
Wow.
that they could have put a little bit of venom into my bloodstream, and then a week and a half later, when I rode that with that guy in the 103-degree heat to out there and trying to ride from Norco to Cabazon on my mountain bike, there's a chance that could have made that my messed up my electrical part of my heart. So because
Mm.
the only other thing that can do that is Lyme disease if you got bit by a tick. But I didn't get bit by a tick. So anyway, they didn't know if that had anything to do with it, but it could have. Yeah. So I've had a
Wow.
lot of crazy
Uh,
things happen to me. Vicky Flanders used to tell me I have 9 lives, because I've been bit by a few different dogs. I've been bit by a rattlesnake. I had accidents and broke my back, and I've just had a lot of stuff going on.
I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you did that. Hey, I saw a video. Nobody probably knows this but me, and I didn't tell you about this. So maybe you won't like this question, and maybe you will. But I saw a video like you were riding your bicycle in Norco Hills a few years ago, and I think you're always video camera. You're a video lover, and you're
Mhm.
videoing. And I think you saw like a UFO or something like in the mountains. And I think you filmed it, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me about that, because I nobody knows about that. I know about that. You know about that.
Yeah,
Tell me
I
about that.
do.
What happened?
It still to this day, I have no idea what it was. I filmed it, and it was too fast for a drone. Because I originally thought it was a drone or something like that, but it was way too fast for a drone. And it went back and forth and everything, and I filmed it. You saw it. If you saw it, you know how
I
fast it
thought.
went. It went faster than any drone could ever go. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I have to say this though. Um, uh, this might sound funny when I say this, but I'm like a ghost magnet. I don't know. I literally have had ever since I took that picture in Tombstone of my buddy Kelly Carlisle in Boot Hill Graveyard, and there was a guy coming out of a grave and all that, and they consider that one of the greatest ghost photos ever taken, and the like people that are really into it. In fact, if you go on and look up on YouTube, go to Ghost Lab, and put in Boot Hill Ghost Lab. I was on that television show Ghost Lab, and that'll explain that whole thing, and it'll show you that picture of the ghost. And the reason why that's never been discredited is it's on the negative. I shot that with 35 millimeter film of my buddy who just was down at Tombstone for the very first time, and he just wanted to dress up and shoot black and white photos around all the cool places. And in fact, when Kelly went to the Tombstone Trail ride, that was the second time. He hadn't been there since that photo was taken in like 1994. Yeah. Anyway, go check that out.
Wow.
Go to Ghost Lab
So,
and look
so
up Boot Hill Ghost. It'll
it's
take you.
So the ghost
Yeah.
came out like from the grave, and then you're taking a picture, and you see the image of the ghost like in the
No,
negative or something.
there was nobody in the graveyard. we went down there, and Paula Jean ran the graveyard, and I asked her if we could go because we didn't want anybody in the background. You didn't want to take pictures of black and white photos of your buddy in 1880s gear with some guy with Bermuda shorts in the back as a tourist. So we were the first ones in there before they opened or anything. We went and took those photos, and there was nobody in that graveyard. And this guy shows up, and it looks. Some people say it looks like a little girl. Some people say an Indian. Some people say an old man. It looks like he's holding a knife. Like the knife is like he's holding a knife, and it's pretty spooky. But anyway, things happen. My house is haunted in Tombstone. My building's haunted in Tombstone. The guy that works for me down in Tombstone, he sees figures walk through the building, and we do. I used to do. Well, I still do them. I just don't do them that often. But I do Ike Clanton's Ghost Hunting Academy. And I hook up all this electronic stuff in the back, and we actually talk on a spirit box to the ghosts and stuff. And one night we were talking to Emmett Kelly, who was the clown, the famous clown Emmett Kelly, the hobo. He used to live in Tombstone. Yeah. He was a dear friend of mine. And one night I had the people that lived in his house in there, and Emmett came over the spirit box, and he was clear as day talking to us. It was crazy.
Now, that was Hobo Kelly with the big glasses.
No,
these big glasses.
Emmett. No. Emmett.
Oh,
Kelly.
Emmett.
He's the Kelly's the hobo clown. Famous guy, very famous. Most famous clown, really. Worked with the Ringland's brothers, and yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and then you have a business too, like the Tombstone Haunted House or something like that.
Haunted
Hotel.
You have
a haunted house.
Well, it's actually called Tombstone Ghost and Legends Tour. But on the front window it says Ike Clanton's Haunted Hotel. And the reason why I did that is because the tour, the Ghost and Legends tour is through the building, okay, and it's very much like a Disney type of production. But I wanted the building. The building isn't a tour. So I wanted the building to be. So I named it. The reason why I did that is I purchased a existing business that was already in there. The tour was already in there, and the inside where you walk in looks like a lobby of a hotel. So I called it Ike Clanton's Haunted Hotel. So it kind of has two names. It's Ike Clanton's Haunted Hotel, but the tour through the building is the Tombstone Ghost and Legends Tour.
Very good.
But yeah, no, it's a fun deal. In fact, in the first room that you go through is the most famous stagecoach in Western movie history. It's the stagecoach that John Wayne used in the 1939 movie Stagecoach. It's been used in over 40 motion pictures, and it's the same stagecoach that Sylvester Stallone and Bruce Willis paid between $300,000 and $400,000 for, bought it from the movie studios, and hung it in Planet Hollywood in Beverly Hills. And then when they went out of business in 2002, it was purchased at an auction and brought down to Tombstone. So, it's in the tour. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any girlfriends or anything? Are you dating, or are you just a bachelor forever?
No, with COVID. With COVID, it's a little tough to meet somebody.
Lots of girls, Where you
like my smile? Oh, my smile. Oh, I dropped my thing here. No.
No COVID girls or anything.
No, it's kind of hard to meet. It's kind of hard to meet a woman when you look like this all the time. No. No, I'm just actually I've been really super busy right now, Brian. With I took on a pretty big challenge a few years ago, and I'm remodeling a house, and I took a 1,700 square foot single story, and thanks to Bruce McDougall, our old Bruce McDougall, one of the best motorcycle racers of all time, he helped me, and he framed it for me. And I've literally, and coached me too along, because I really had never done anything like this. And I did it owner builder, and I've turned it into a 3,300 square foot 2-story. Well, it's 3-story because it's got a 3rd story deck. But It's taken me a while.
Beautiful.
And then 2 years ago, the year and a half ago when we had all that rain, we were framing it when we were doing all the rain and all that. That was horrible. And now I've done it through the pandemic and the workers and all this stuff. And it's been a real challenge, but so I haven't had much time for a girlfriend, unfortunately. But yeah.
Well, if there's any girls out there, and just text me or email me, leave a message on the channel, and I'll go ahead and text Terry right here.
Oh, this is the Beehive dating service now. The Beehive dating service, right?
Beehive dating service. We want to hook Terry up with a girl with a really nice mask, so when they kiss, they can kiss with the mask on.
Yeah, no, it's been tough. I'm telling you right now, this pandemic is really tough on everybody, though. It's just tough on everyone, because everybody has their own things that they're doing, I mean, how would you like to be in the restaurant business right now? No, it would be horrible. You've got your bills to pay and, house payments. And I mean, this is it's a horrible deal all the way around. So it's tough on single people as well. And think about the people, Brian, that and over Christmas I thought a lot about them, and especially and also at Thanksgiving and stuff, that maybe they're alone. They're alone. They live alone. They don't have any family here, and they're just alone, and they're locked up in their house. It's horrible, So it's really bad.
It's hard. Everybody's alone, really. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, kind of like everyone's locked up in their little like igloo or whatever they live in, and it's really hard. And that's why I started blogging a lot, because I just couldn't stand being like locked up in my house all the time. It'd drive you crazy.
Yeah.
So it's hard,
Yeah, that's why I said you got to stay busy. I'm trying to stay busy, and I'm getting, I'm getting ready to do, keep doing. I'm coming to the conclusion on my house. That's almost done. So, and I want to get back into my acting too. That really is my passion too. I don't know if you know that, but I've actually been doing the acting since I was a kid. My mom got me into it when I was young, and I've had lots of training and stuff like that. But other than that, I enjoy it. I really enjoy acting, and I do that. I really enjoy the craft, and I enjoy that stuff. I always get pegged as playing Ike Clanton, the bad guy and stuff. But I'd like to play other parts too. So.
I saw you on a TV series. I'm watching TV one day. It was like the History Channel, and then here's Terry on the TV, and you're doing Ike Clanton and the Tombstone, and I'm like, I know that guy. And it was a big show on history. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And then the one that's I think it's still airing now on the Travel Channel. I think it is the Doc Holliday documentary, and I play Ike Clanton on that one too. But I get pegged as being a bad guy usually too. I have that bad guy look. But
That's
anyway,
awesome. I remember you. Go ahead.
No, the thing is when you do acting, I don't want to do acting just to be a cowboy. I mean, that's why when I was doing the Haunted Saloon, that was my outlet. People realize, I mean, yeah, it was 7 years every Tuesday night, but yeah, I played Captain Jolly, the pirate. I played Holly Hooker. I dressed up as a woman and played Holly Hooker. And I mean, that's acting, man. That's just just having fun with the whole deal, and you don't want to just do one thing. You don't want to be like a cowboy, like you get pegged as a cowboy actor. No, I'd like to do other things too. If it's acting, I'm in. So.
You're my favorite pirate actor, and I saw you do your videos on your pirate. You're like your Pirates of the Caribbean pirate. Could you do a little thing for us now? Could you give a little pirate thing right now?
No, I have to think about it. I can't just go into Captain Jolly. But when I do that, Brian, it's when I come out like I'm him. I just transform into Captain Jolly. I don't know.
You have the hat.
Well, if anybody wants to get into acting, I'm going to tell you a couple books to buy, and you really, this is really what it is, because the studies that I did acting for my craft is called Irreverent Acting by Eric Morris, and the one book is called No Acting Please, and then he has another book. Eric Morris has another book called Irreverent Acting. Okay, but the No Acting Please, in fact, the foreword is by Jack Nicholson. In No Acting Please, because that is the same type of craft and same type of acting that I do is the same that Jack Nicholson learned, was irreverent acting. And you use choices. Like, just to give you a good example would be somebody that, it could be a time in your life or something like that that made you very angry. And somebody made you really angry. Well, then you would go after that person. You get really angry at that person, and then you would become that person, and then you do your lines. Okay, so it's kind of like you'd use choices and stuff like that. So I love it though. I love acting classes. I love reading, scripts with people. I used to read with. I used to do it once or twice a week. I used to go up. You remember Chips that Pinhall was on?
Yeah.
Remember Chips, right? Remember the other guy that was on Chips, Tom Riley? Tom Riley was the one that took over for Larry Wilcox.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
I used to go up to his house twice a week and read with him. I used to read scripts with him.
Nice.
And it's basically like going to the gym. For an actor, reading scripts and reading together is like going to the gym. You just hone your craft. And I haven't talked a lot about that, but I really enjoy it, and need to get back into it again right now, especially since the entertainment industry is working right now, and we don't have any motorsports events to announce. So
right. Oh, that's well. Thank you, Terry.
Drum up.
Thank you. And is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we close the show?
No, we've had 2 hours of all kinds of fun, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
We had a good time. Yeah, I knew the show would be good.
I appreciate you having me on, and good luck with your show. I told you how to get the audio better. Get some of these things here; it'll make your audio sound better. And good luck with it.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job, and people don't realize how much time it takes to do what you're doing. I do know how just putting it all together.
We work hard, and we want to promote the sport of Speedway, and we want to go ahead and get Speedway to grow, and just kind of get that whole thing happening. And also, it's good to do the show because you get to exercise your mind, you get to study and do research, and you don't get Alzheimer's when you do that one. So it's good.
So anyway, I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for having me on, and good luck to you, and stay safe down there in the Philippines as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Terry. Ike Clanton, for joining us at the Hive tonight. We wish you many more years of success and prosperity, and your mom too, Mary Ann. We wish you both of you, just a very great, successful time and a long and healthy life. So thank you so much, Terry.
Thanks, Brian. So long, everyone.
That was Terry Ike Clanton from the Beehive. Wasn't that a good show tonight? I enjoyed that one. He is the voice of the Acura Long Beach Grand Prix, the industry, and Costa Mesa Speedway. He's an amazing talent. That's Terry Ike Clanton. And he's a talented person. And you saw he was really a cool guy. He is a cool guy. And we had a great show with Terry. And we have more shows coming with a big list of riders and Speedway celebrities. They're all coming to the Beehive, so please stay tuned for that. We have a big list, so we're going to have some exciting shows. So if you want to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, if you haven't, subscribe and push that notification bell. Why? Because you'll be notified of the shows, and we're going to have a lot of them. And we do daily blogs of Speedway and other things. And if you do that notification thing and the bell, then you know what's happening here in the Hive. So we love Speedway. We want to promote it. And we hope that it continues to grow. So thank you so much for once again joining the Beehive. And we want to wish you happy holidays. Happy New Year. I hope your Christmas was great. We sure had a great one over here. And we'll see you on the next show. So thank you so much for joining us at the Beehive. And we'll see you next time.